Hello, and welcome to the Rambling Movie Club, where each episode I try and watch some new movies, and then I come back and talk about them. I just want to say super quick, thank you to everyone who's listened to the podcast over the last couple of weeks. It's been really great to see all of my friends and family kind of jump in and really embrace the podcast, and the viewers spiked through the roof, which is great. So now I'm at over 200 listens, which I'm really happy about. So anyway, on to this episode. This episode is all about the movie Six Underground, which is the new Michael Bay movie. Well, I say new, it came out in December. New Michael Bay movie and Ryan Reynolds movie made by Netflix. Now, I don't really know how I feel about this movie. After watching the movie, I was very confused as to how I feel about this movie. I just want to say I do really like Michael Bay movies. Like, they're kind of dumb fun. This movie isn't a normal Michael Bay movie. The first half and the second half are completely different things. Like, the second half is a normal Michael Bay movie and the first half isn't. So, but I'll talk about that in more detail. I don't think I recommend this movie because it's a bit of a mess. But I still want to talk about this movie because you can still learn just as much from a bad movie as you can from a good movie. But yeah, so if you want to watch this movie, like I say, prepare to slog through the first hour, but the last 45 minutes do get better. So yeah. So onto the movie. So we start off with Ryan Reynolds flying the plane, and then he dies, in quotes, because this movie's all about how people fake their deaths to go and do super secret missions. And then we cut to a car chase in Florence, I think. This is in the past, but as I realise now from watching the whole movie, it's after the flashback of Ryan Reynolds dying, in quotes, but before the rest of the movie. But it's super confusing. And I get it's supposed to be stressful and chaotic, but it's just done really badly and you don't really know what's going on. So it's just a bit too much. And you just got like cars exploding and stuff for no reason. Like it's like Michael Bay taking to like too much extreme. But it's only for like 2 minutes and then it moves on. But then there's also sorts of problems like matching shots don't match. So like if you don't know what a matching shot is like when like you take a video of something and then take a video from like a different angle of the same thing. So like in this, the one that really stood out to me was there's a bit where the car does a donut and Ryan Reynolds sticks his head out the window to look at a dog, but in some of the camera shots you can clearly see his head isn't out the window, and other shots his head is out the window, and it's just so confusing like what's going on, because it's in the space of like half a second and yet somehow he's moved like a foot. And then this car chase ends with them hitting a forklift truck. I did not see this coming, of Dave Franco dying, because I saw him in the trailers. I was like, oh, he's going to be the other big actor in this movie, but apparently not. But yeah, after watching this movie, I have no idea. Like, this heist is supposed to like set up like the rest of the movie, but I have no idea. Like, I don't get its relevance to the rest of the movie. So because Dave Franco is dead, they have to recruit a new guy. There's a flashback to show why the bad guy is so evil, and Ryan Reynolds is experiencing it firsthand. And as we kind of see, the movie can't decide if it wants to be super serious or silly action, because like the opening car chase is very silly, or tries to be very silly and like over the top. But then here it's like, no, like dictators are bad. Like it's just all over the place. This is kind of one thing you can see the difference between The Hitman's Bodyguard, which I talked about last episode, and this movie, and why The Hitman's Bodyguard is better, because it sets up its villain much, much better. And that in this movie, it's a case of you see the bad guy, like Ryan Reynolds is being blown up, and then next thing you cut to is the bad guy making a phone call, being like, yes, I blew up that city. Whereas in The Hitman's Bodyguard, you see Gary Oldman come in as the bad guy, rough up a guy's house, and then murder his wife and child in front of him. It's like, okay, you know this goes to the bad guy. Like, you don't need any more explanation. You know this goes to the bad guy. Whereas, like, in this movie, it's more a case of, like, this guy's the bad guy because we say he's the bad guy and he's done some evil things. And, like, they're trying to show that he's the bad guy, but it's just not done very well. And then, yeah, Ryan Reynolds meets the evil dictator later on at another event. There's a super quick cameo of Ryan Reynolds' gin while they're at the bar, because Ryan Reynolds owns a gin company, in case you didn't know. Back into the present, they go to Vegas and kill some generals. Some of the team are banging, blah, blah, blah. One of them has a dying mother, blah, blah, blah. We see the backstory of the Freerunner one. I can't remember his name or his number, because they all have names and numbers, and it gets so confusing. So the problem with this movie, and this is kind of the point where I realised what the problem was, is this movie isn't what you think it is. It doesn't have the normal Michael Bay thing with all the action and like no story. This is trying to go like, have like an interesting story and then also have action, but it doesn't really do either very well. It wastes way too much time on setting things up and explaining the backgrounds of every single person in the movie, apart from the female characters for some reason, which I don't get. Like, that's a bit weird. And then they know Ryan Reynolds is the best bit of this movie, and that's why he's in like every single scene, which I get. They were probably trying to make the best of it, but at the same time, it's like you've got all these other actors, like, use them. And then there's also a lot of shots, and like we're only halfway through the movie at this point. There's already been a lot of shots where they're trying to make out the team to be like the coolest people ever, and that looks great in a trailer, but in an actual movie, like, you don't need that. Like, you're watching the movie, like, you have those shots in the trailer, like, oh, I want to see what these cool people are doing. The team goes to Hong Kong. And I've got to admit, the bit with the random guy sat with them is actually really funny. When they're like, yes, let's discuss our great plan. And there's just some random guy, and Ryan's like, who are you? I see our security is great, that we got some random guy just sitting with us, and yeah, that was pretty funny. And this is kind of where the movie starts to pick up a bit. They then try and break out the dictator's brother out of a big tower thing. I do like the gas masks. I think they're a really cool design, very modern. I don't normally point out problems with physics or plot holes in Michael Bay movies, but there's a bit that really annoyed me, and it's when the guy's hiding in the swimming pool, trying to hide from the bad guys. And the bad guys are on top of the pool, like looking around trying to see if they can find him, and there's a camera at the same height as the bad guys, and you can clearly see the good guy hiding in the pool, and it's just like, come on, you're showing us like the bad guy should be able to easily spot him, like, it's just so dumb. And then they escape from the big tower thing, and again, this is supposed to be a really cool action scene, but it doesn't quite work, but it's starting to feel a bit more like a Michael Bay movie, but it's taken an hour to get here. And then they come up with their big master plan of taking down the dictator by sabotaging the TV and electric, and like, you know, getting the country to rise up. I love the bit of Ryan Reynolds pretending to be Scottish. I think he has a great Scottish accent. They chase the dictator onto his boat, and then they turn that into a giant magnet, which is definitely different, like not seen that in a movie before. But it also gets super gory, which I wasn't expecting. Kind of an interesting idea of this like whole, like, how he just keeps using the magnet to like get everyone away from them. They sink the boat, and Ryan Reynolds starts caring about the team. They somehow get on the dictator's escape helicopter. No idea how. And then everyone is happy at the end, and of course it's set up for a sequel. In my notes I've put, please don't make a sequel unless it's better in every single way. That's the movie. If this movie was just the last hour, it would be a million times better. And I'd be like, yes, go out and watch this movie. But the first hour is so messy that I'm just like, it's such a drag to get through. Like, I was watching it, and then in the end I ended up writing these notes for the podcast while I was watching the movie because I just got so bored. But then towards the end of the movie, like when they get onto the boat and stuff, and like all the action's kicking off, like I got like so into the movie, and I was like, I haven't actually written any notes in like half an hour. Like, I'm actually enjoying this movie now. But it's just, that's why I find it so difficult to recommend, because like you have to get through the first hour, which is hard, and then the last 45 minutes or so are good. So yeah, I don't know, it's a difficult one. It's like they had the idea for the big tower scene and the boat scene and built the rest of the movie around that. Which again, the boat scene's really cool, the tower scene's okay, it could have been done better, but it's, you know, it's alright. I did look up some fun trivia for this movie to see what's out there, because I figured there's probably some positive stuff. And the one that I did most find was the ghost symbol on the plane that we see at the start, and it's kind of shown throughout the movie. This was the symbol for a real World War II group called the Ghost Army, and they used fake radio messages to trick the German army about where the American armies were, and so you use like fake intelligence, or as we'd call it now, fake news, to try and trick the German armies into attacking other places, or to like think that they were about to be attacked. So I thought that was quite a cool piece of trivia. So yeah, that was the movie Six Underground. I hope you never watch this movie again. If you watched it, let me know what you think. You can let me know on Instagram at Rambling Movie Club. Next episode's movie is going to be something much, much better, because I need a better movie to talk about, because I don't watch a bad movie again. And it's going to be the movie Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. This is one of my favourite movies. I've seen this at least 100 times, not an exaggeration. Basically, if you haven't seen it, it's a movie, it's based on a comic book, but it's not DC or Marvel, it's an independent one. And this came out in 2010 or 11, I want to say. It's about 10 years old now, and it's all about this guy who's like 22, 23. There's a bit of like a slacker who just like doesn't want to work or do anything, and then he meets this girl and starts dating her, and then has to defeat her 7 evil exes so that they can date. And it's very comic booky and very like video gamey. It's made by Edgar Wright, who did Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, Baby Driver, so it's like very well done. And you can, if you watch Scott Pilgrim now after watching Baby Driver, you can see where Scott Pilgrim was him trying out a lot of stuff with like soundtracks and stuff, because it has a really, really good soundtrack. But I will stop, because otherwise I will go into like all the details of the movie now, but I'll wait for the actual episode. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend watching Scott Pilgrim before the next episode. It's a great movie, and it's aged very well, and like things like the special effects and stuff still hold up. So yeah, I definitely recommend watching it. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.